Canada is reaching a breaking point, not in quiet conversations behind closed doors, but through growing and vocal discontent across the western provinces. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and British Columbia are no longer quietly frustrated. Their message is loud, direct, and impossible to ignore. In Ottawa, the federal government, led by Prime Minister Trudeau and supported by figures like Mark Carney, is facing serious pushback. Western leaders are demanding recognition and respect, and the calls for greater autonomy are getting stronger by the day. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has taken a decisive step forward. She's no longer waiting for Ottawa to acknowledge Alberta's contributions, from energy production to its hard-working families. Instead, she's proposing a referendum, not a symbolic vote, but a binding one that could redefine Alberta's role within Confederation. This isn't just political talk. It's a movement, and it has support from across the province. Conversations around independence are happening in homes, town halls, and on ballots. The idea has moved from the margins to the mainstream. Saskatchewan is also watching closely. Support for a stronger Western partnership, possibly a new kind of alliance, is growing quickly. Many in the West believe it's time to push back against what they see as repeated federal overreach and a lack of fair treatment. This moment could reshape the future of Canadian unity. If you care about honest leadership, real accountability, and regional fairness, now is the time to stay informed and engaged. Let's take a closer look at what's unfolding and where it may lead next. What was once considered an unrealistic idea is now turning into a serious plan. Even in British Columbia, a province that has historically leaned more progressive, public frustration is growing. Resource workers, small business owners, and farmers are beginning to ask tough questions. What are we really getting from Ottawa? Are the regulations and restrictions helping, or are they holding us back? The sentiment is spreading. The West contributes significantly to Canada's economy, but often feels ignored or penalized. Many in the region feel they've carried more than their share of the load, and now they're calling for change. Enter the Western Economic Compact, a proposal focused on more than symbolic protests. This initiative would allow provinces to take control of their own economic future. That means creating their own trade networks, infrastructure agreements, and investment strategies without having to rely on Ottawa's approval. This compact could allow for direct partnerships with U.S. states and international markets, supporting pipelines, trade routes, and energy development driven by economic needs, not by bureaucratic delays or policies crafted far from the realities of Western industries. Meanwhile, federal leadership, particularly figures like Mark Carney, is struggling to respond. Once introduced as a high-profile advisor with global credentials, Carney was seen as someone who could help unite the country. But many now feel his policies are out of step with the everyday concerns of Western Canadians. While Carney emphasizes environmental goals and long-term climate strategies, people in the West are more focused on immediate needs, jobs, affordable living, and economic growth. That disconnect is only adding fuel to the fire. The situation is evolving quickly, and it raises important questions about the future of federal-provincial relations in Canada. Let's explore what this growing Western movement could mean for the country moving forward. While federal leaders focus on green transitions, many in the West are calling for practical solutions that prioritize jobs and economic stability. There's growing concern that key decision-makers in Ottawa, including figures like Mark Carney, don't fully understand the needs and priorities of Western Canadians. And now, that disconnect is becoming harder to ignore. The rising call for independence didn't appear out of nowhere. It has been building for years, shaped by policy decisions like Bill C-69, rising carbon taxes, and the cancellation of major pipeline projects. Many Westerners see these policies not just as regulatory measures, but as direct hits to their livelihoods and communities. Time and again, industries that drive the West's economy, especially energy, have been criticized or sidelined. Workers have lost jobs, towns have been economically strained, and voices from the region often feel ignored in national conversations. That's why talk of secession is gaining traction. It's not just frustration, it's about feeling left behind. Recent polling shows that support for independence is rising across multiple sectors: agriculture, energy, education, and small business. Even Indigenous leaders are beginning to question whether Confederation is still working in their community's best interest. At the heart of it all is a question: what is the West truly gaining from staying in a system that many feel doesn't represent or respect them? When regulation increases, taxes rise, and fair treatment seems absent, people begin to seek alternatives. And while some media voices have dismissed this movement as unrealistic or exaggerated, that reaction may no longer hold. As support spreads and more communities speak out, the conversation is shifting, and it's becoming one the entire country can no longer ignore. His movement hasn't faded, it's grown stronger. What some dismissed as fringe is now a national conversation. Media outlets that once downplayed or ignored the concerns of the West are now scrambling to respond. But at this point, the West isn't seeking approval, it's asking for fairness, autonomy, and recognition. The voices calling for change are no longer isolated. Across Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and British Columbia, more and more citizens are asking, if our contributions are vital to Canada's economy, why aren't our voices equally valued? Meanwhile, one political figure gaining attention is Pierre Poilievre. His message has been clear and consistent: respect the West or risk losing national unity. He's not making sweeping promises. He's offering a different kind of leadership, one that focuses on listening and restoring trust in federal-provincial relations. Poilievre seems to understand what many in Ottawa have missed, that Western Canadians aren't asking for special treatment. They're asking for respect, for equal standing, and for the ability to shape their own economic and political future. At this point, Canada stands at a crossroads. One path continues with centralized overreach and growing division. The other opens the door to real reform, one where provinces have a greater say and the country moves forward together, not apart. Premier Danielle Smith has taken a firm stance. Saskatchewan appears to be considering similar steps. Manitoba and British Columbia are watching closely. But in Ottawa, there's still hesitation, a belief that this will pass on its own. It won't. What we're seeing now isn't just a Western protest. It's a growing realization that the current system isn't working for everyone. And it's becoming harder to ignore. The federal government, especially the Liberal Party, is facing a serious challenge: years of centralized decision-making, increasing regulations, and short-term political solutions are no longer enough. Public trust has eroded. And while figures like Mark Carney were brought in to project confidence and stability, many now see those moves as out of touch with everyday realities. Canada's future depends on how seriously these concerns are taken. Real dialogue, not just media statements, is what's needed now. The West is speaking clearly. The question is, will Ottawa listen? Canada's leadership is watching a shift happen in real time. The Western provinces are moving away, not because of a single policy decision, but because of a growing divide between Ottawa's vision and the everyday reality in the West. Final thoughts. A turning point for the West. This moment isn't just another chapter in Canadian politics. It could mark a fundamental turning point. Canada was founded on the principle of unity, but unity cannot survive without respect for many in the West. That respect has been missing for too long. Now, the West is responding, not out of protest, but out of purpose. Whether through the formation of a new economic partnership or by exploring a path toward full independence, the message is becoming clearer. They are no longer content with a secondary role. No more waiting on federal approval. No more policies that overlook regional needs. This is about taking control of the future and acting on it. If Ottawa doesn't listen now, if meaningful change isn't made, the idea of Confederation as we know it could be fundamentally reshaped. The West has spoken, not with anger, but with resolve. And this time, they aren't backing down.